Institutions are buying Bitcoin, and we can show you how we know. And it feels like as a result, the bull market is back, baby. I think you have to say baby after you say the bull market is back. It just has a much more impactful sound to say the bull market is back, baby. But I've got James Butterfill, who seemingly every article referencing institutional adoption of crypto is referencing James Butterfill and CoinShares. So is the perfect person to bring on to discuss this very topic. And of course, at the end, I've got Christopher Inks of TextWestCapital to show you what we're trading these days. It's going to be another amazing stream. Let's go.
Let's go.
What is up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of All Streets. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. I have to say that life is a lot more fun around here when prices are going up and not going down. The bull market sentiment, whether we determine it to be a bull market or not, makes life so much easier, so much more pleasant, so many less trolls. Still some people telling me that I'm an idiot and that Bitcoin is going to zero, but most of that is largely avoidable. So I hope that you guys have been enjoying this price action. As I said there at the beginning, we do have some strong indication that institutions are buying Bitcoin. James just had a bit of a sound issue. He'll be back in 1 second. But I will start showing you what we are seeing. And the main thing here that we are seeing is institutions race for Bitcoin, sending CME open interest to record high. Open interest on CME futures contracts, which is where institutions currently trade Bitcoin, is at an all-time high. 100,000 Bitcoin, $3.4 billion. That has never happened before. That's never happened before. And interestingly, we know that open interest had actually dropped immediately after the break of 31,000. When we saw that first pump, shorts were getting liquidated, but it immediately increased once again. And now we have institutions buying. Now, I can't wait for James to get here because he has some great alpha on where those institutions are that are buying this asset, which is very helpful information. But what's hilarious, maybe while we're waiting, we'll just dig into this story because, oh man, you guys may have seen this yesterday. So we talked about the BlackRock IBTC ticker showing up on the DTCC site, right? We covered it yesterday. We've been tweeting about it. Everybody was talking about it. On the DTCC website, all of a sudden, magically, right, IBTC appeared, meaning that BlackRock was taking the next steps to prepare for the approval of a Bitcoin spot ETF. And a part of that was that they said that they would need to buy some of the underlying asset to add to that, aka some more institutional buying, even if in small amounts, to seed the initial fund. Something that seemingly you wouldn't do unless you actually intended to get approval. Then I talked to an ETF expert who said, literally, this means nothing, right? So we had all these narratives circling around how big of a deal this was. And a lot of people who look at ETFs are like, yeah, man, it just means they're kind of like going through the steps. It doesn't mean the approval is imminent. It doesn't mean that they're buying meaningful amounts of Bitcoin at all. And then if you guys weren't paying attention yesterday, what happened next? Well, that ticker apparently, according to crypto Twitter, who doesn't know shit about shit, said it was removed. And so many people tried to check the site to see if it was in fact removed that the DTCC site completely crashed. So if you went on the site, you got one of those Cloudflare, sorry, bro, we don't exist. Come back another time, maybe in a few years. And then when it came back, the ticker was kind of there, then it wasn't there. Then people said that ARK's ticker was there. So now ARK's, their application, getting a ticker, very exciting, but that wasn't actually there. So this was all the classic fake news, bullshit, crypto journalism any journalism, not just crypto, to be fair, that we've seen over and over again, much like the fake news from Cointelegraph last week. And then the real kicker came out, guys. The real kicker was, okay, this was the disappearance, but here it was that that ticker had been there since August. Ticker was already there. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on James while we talk about it. But if you guys didn't hear that, it was big news that the DTCC listed the ticker yesterday or the day before. Then it was bigger news when they removed the ticker. Then it was bigger news when the DTCC website went down as a result. Then it was huge news when ARK was added, which didn't actually happen. And then we found out that the internet sleuths and crypto Twitter had missed the fact that this has been sitting there for over 2 months and is a literal nothing burger. James, is your mic working? Do we got you here?
Yeah, I think it's working now. Can you hear me all right?
Man, perfect. Yeah, so you might have missed what we were talking about. We kind of reviewed the CME open interest part of it.
Yeah.
You have some information, I believe. Obviously, as I said, everybody references you on inflows and how much capital we're seeing coming from institutions into this space.
Actually, it's very cautious so far. When BlackRock announced the initial listing in June, or the application with the SEC, we saw about $300 million of inflows. And since then, we've only seen around 150-ish. And this week so far, 76 million. So a little bit more cautious this time around. And maybe investors have been a little bit burnt and they're just being a bit more cautious until there's actually true evidence that the SEC will approve. But what's very interesting, your point you made, in the United States, so we're seeing outflows from futures-based ETFs. So perhaps people are positioning themselves, selling out and waiting to buy the spot-based ETF.
Right. There are a few things there that make a lot of sense to me. Why would you sit in the futures ETF if a spot ETF is imminent? Because we all know that the futures ETF underperforms even the spot price of Bitcoin. It's a subpar product. And the other thing is why would we see massive inflows into any of these other products if people really want to buy the ETF, right? So the fact that we're seeing meaningful inflows, I believe you told me the number now on the year is about 326. Is that correct?
330-ish, about 330 million, yeah.
Right. So not huge numbers, but what I pointed to was the CME contracts hitting open interest, hitting an all-time high. So people are at least trading it aggressively, the institutions. But it seems like the real inflows would naturally come when we get the approval, because why would you do anything else before that at this point?
And that's absolutely right. And we have to think about timing here now as well. And this is why, so we're having all these applicants, they've applied for what they call a 19B4 application. And that's to get approval from the SEC to launch a fund. And that's where we all are now. And actually Grayscale is a little bit different because they're saying, where they already applied much earlier, and therefore they could get a 19B4 approved earlier than all their competitors. I suspect the discussions they're having with the SEC now are saying, oh, actually, we want to wait and approve everyone at the same time, which is kind of fair, I suppose. But once the 19B4 is approved, and I think actually those will be approved before Thanksgiving. So that is the biggest point to which we know for sure the SEC is going to approve. And then after that, it's more procedural. What the SEC then do is give the applicants 75 days to list a security. And so if you think about that from practicalities around, you've got Thanksgiving and then you've got Christmas, etc., it's probably likely that early January or just January time, when that 75 days is still within that 75-day window, that's when all the ETFs will actually be launched and issued. Right.
That makes sense. Now, I want to talk about the actual price action that surrounded all of this news, both real, fake, and 2 months delayed, because it's seemingly that's what happened, right? So we've seen this massive move, seemingly just on anticipation that this ETF will get approved, but we've had that anticipation now for a few weeks. Obviously, Grayscale won, the SEC didn't appeal, BlackRock kind of advancing their cause, ARK changing their language, the SEC actively asking questions, right? That the whole vibe here has changed. But that's a lot. That doesn't seem like enough to necessarily send price to 35,000. I actually read an interesting thread here, which I didn't show you before, but from Alex Thorne, saying that option market makers in Bitcoin are increasingly short gamma as Bitcoin spot price moves up. When your short gamma on spot price rises, you need to buy back spot to stay delta neutral. This should amplify the explosiveness of any short-term upward move in the near term more. Now, he posted this, it's a long thread, before the big move from 31 to 35. And actually, when I started to dig in and I asked Josh Frank from the TIE about this, he said actually the bulk of this buying was on OKX and then other Asian exchanges and outside the United States. And you told me before this, even that a lot of the fund inflows we're seeing are from Canada and Europe, and this isn't really largely US buying.
Yeah, that's true. And I think what the chap just described them was basically a short squeeze. You know, they can't hold on to these short positions anymore.
That's
that
GameStop, guys.
The price rise.
That's GameStop.
They're quite sort of short-termist things. But I would say, you know, like, could we see a correction at this point? And I think in the short term, it's possible. I mean, we've got, if you look at something like the RSI, the Relative Strength Index, and many people in the kind of follow this, I would say with a word of caution that if you back test RSI as a successful investment strategy, it doesn't work particularly well. But yeah, there's no denying the RSI has gone well above 70. So we could see a sort of short-term retrenchment, but we have to think about like some of the factors other than just the ETF that are moving the price at the moment. So, you know, don't forget, you know, what was moving the price back in May. Interestingly, what was trying to push it down was the SEC and really going hard against exchanges. But what's pushing it up was the banking crisis and the US government shutdown. We are in the middle of another government potential shutdown. So the Congress sort of approved a continuing resolution, which basically kicked the can down the road for the shutdown on the 1st of October. And now come 17th of October, this is a big issue again. And I think that
nobody's talking about it.
To support.
Nobody's talking about it. It's a huge issue, and we don't even have a Speaker of the House to deal with any of it.
Yes, exactly.
Which is absolutely incredible that the same issue that nobody could stop talking about just a few short weeks ago seemingly all of a sudden becomes a non-issue because there's other things in the media. I want to hone in really quickly on RSI because it's an interesting point. Now, I will say that RSI isn't always a great signal simply because it's overbought or oversold. But where it is a good signal is when you get divergence, in my opinion. It's always been my favorite signal. But looking, daily RSI right now is at roughly 88, 87.62. You can scroll back, peak RSI 20. We got higher than that in the beginning of this year. But then literally at the peaks of the last bull market, we're talking about 69,000 and higher. It only went to roughly 89. Like we're talking about all-time highs of RSI. Back in 2017, that bull market, it got to, it pushed up to about 94. But we're to your point, we're peaking up to that area where maybe you get another push, one more push, and then it can be healthy retracement and RSI resets. Yeah. But if you're looking at the weekly, just for people's reference, it's just hitting overbought. And on larger time frames, give you more, I think, of information on how long the bull market could go. And it just hit overbought at 12,000 in 2020. Right. And we all know that Bitcoin managed to push all the way to 65,000 with RSI just hitting overbought. So depending on the time frame, I think the daily needs some retracement, but there's plenty of room to run on a higher time frame.
Yeah. And let's think about, you know, if there's a bit of a sell-off, then the next question is, well, at what point do you buy? Do you wait till the RSI drops below 30 before you buy it? And I think we then have to think more from a macro perspective and what's going on in sort of broader markets. Well, you know, what are the price drivers and what are the price detractors? If you just focus on the price detractors, a way more hawkish Fed would be not great for Bitcoin. An incredibly strong dollar, again, would not be great for Bitcoin. And a soft economic landing, I think, in that scenario wouldn't be great either. But I think they're unlikely. And if you look at some of the price things to price a push up, obviously the ETF, we know that's pushing up the price. The shutdown worries. We've got next year, it's likely that there are likely rate cuts. Now, at the moment, the futures market is bringing forward their expectations for rate cuts. They were the first rate cuts in July, and now they're around May. So people are starting to get slightly more worried about the US economy. And actually, prior to this whole ETF kind of craziness, if you looked at the rate hike probabilities for December, and you can trace that over time on Bloomberg, and inverse the Bitcoin price, they were moving absolutely lockstep with each other. So it was all about rates. And once we're over the ETF thingamabob, when that's in January, I think then the discussion will be around the halving and rate cuts. And that I do think would be quite supportive for Bitcoin.
I just giggled because I believe it's still a 35% chance in predictive markets of May, and they've been kicking the can down the road on predictive markets have on rate cuts for the last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it was only 9 months ago that we were supposed to have 3 rate cuts in 2023. So it shows what people's sentiment is. I just think it's important to point out how horribly wrong people's sentiment is about rate cuts.
Markets have been consistently getting it wrong, actually, about when the Fed starts cutting rates. But it's more about what the Fed should do and what they will do. And what we know from the Fed is they're consistently looking at backward-looking data points. Yeah. And that's why the Fed always makes mistakes, sadly. They're all very clever people at the Fed. But
literally always. I want to talk about something else. Since we are talking about institutions buying Bitcoin, it's important also to just talk about generally this massive increase in market cap that we've seen over the past week. So we've obviously seen market cap that was sub $1 trillion again, pushing up. I don't know where it is today. I can look on CoinMarketCap. You might have that data, probably between 1.2 and 1.3 trillion. If I had to guess. I should have looked, but that's the ballpark. Last week when we had the fake pump, we saw altcoins just absolutely get destroyed when Bitcoin pushed up, given it all happened in an hour. This time, we are seeing Bitcoin dominance continue to rise. It's making new yearly highs. So altcoins are still suffering, but some of them are doing actually quite well and outperforming Bitcoin, which is not something we've seen in a while. And to me, that's a very clear indication, especially with that bump in market cap, that this isn't just altcoins into Bitcoin, into altcoins into Bitcoin. There's new money here. Do you think that that's, I've been saying it all week, so you can refute it so I can stop. But I've been saying all week, this time it feels like we've got some new money coming in from the sidelines.
I can corroborate this with figures. So if you look at the fund flows for Solana, for instance, this is the darling. 47%, 48% of total assets under management have inflowed this year alone. So it's not huge numbers. We're talking sort of, I think it's around $50 million of inflows this year. But it just demonstrates that people kind of love Solana at the moment. I mean, I personally struggle with that relative to Ethereum, and everyone's been hating on Ethereum recently, actually, this year and
that means it's time to buy. People are just hating on Ethereum because it's doing poorly against Bitcoin. It's to me, it's simply price action and nothing fundamental.
I think some people are concerned about Ethereum's transition to proto-dank sharding and how that all happens and the timing around it. They had the same fears over the merge, and they had similar sort of fears over Shanghai, which was the release of yield. But actually, their track record is improving all the time. They've been a lot better at software upgrades, and I think whilst there's a bit of a delay with sharding and what they call Cancun, I think it's overhyped. And Ethereum is the only asset out there that offers a yield with a deflationary element to it. Solana is still very much inflationary and has a much smaller network.
The only problem is that and I don't see it as a problem. I think it's temporary, but it's that the yield is 3.5%, and you can buy a 5%, and you can get 5% on a treasury bill, right? So once again have DeFi yields, and I think that will become whatever the yield is on Ethereum staking will become sort of the benchmark yield for all of crypto, right? Yeah. Once that's inevitably above the treasury yields, I think we're going to be hearing a lot of excitement around Ethereum.
Yeah, and I used to do this as a fund manager. We'd do S&P yield versus the 10-year treasury yield. But there are different animals. I mean, when you buy treasuries, you're not thinking about the price upside. You're just thinking about getting 100% back, and then the coupon on top of that. With something like Ethereum, it's massive, and other cryptos, they're massive growth assets, and they have much more price upside potential than the opportunity cost is great.
Sure, earning interest while the price of the underlying asset you're staking doubles is very attractive.
Yeah, so you're buying like something that's yielding 3.5-4% plus huge growth potential, and I think that's quite different to treasuries.
Okay, in my mind, the next sort of key psychological level, forget charts, would be if Bitcoin somehow now pushes to 40, right? I mean, if we push above 40,000 on this same move, RSI be damned, lines on your chart be damned. Do you think that that would really get the ball rolling? I wrote a newsletter intro this morning. Anecdotally, nobody's called me about this Bitcoin move. Literally nobody. Not my mom, not my dad, not my brother, not my friends. Nobody's asked me if it's time to buy Bitcoin. They haven't mentioned Chainlink. It seems that nobody's paying attention to this in my mind. And I don't think your average person is tracking the BlackRock ETF.
Yeah, I think many people have discredited Bitcoin in the traditional finance world, looking at how much it's fallen from its peaks. When it recovering back to 40,000, which is a very sort of psychological level, I think would demonstrate that Bitcoin really is back, and it's back with regulatory acceptance. We can almost, I think, say that now, and that's the biggest hang up I think with many clients, is that regulatory acceptance point. So hitting that level, I think, will really demonstrate to you that it's not dead. Like many people, naysayers, have been saying. And so, it starts to, you see mainstream acceptance paralleling asset classes like gold. And, in my mind, that would be a very positive step forward. But as we always know with Bitcoin, it's never a straight road to get to that level. It will not likely be quite volatile. And don't forget, you can look at things called Sortino ratios, which are a bit like Sharpe ratios. So that's risk adjusted returns. The Sortino is just measuring risk adjusted returns when the price is falling. And what you find actually is the volatility when Bitcoin price is falling is a lot lower than when it's rising. So you tend to see much greater spikes involved when the price is rising. In other words, it's a very rocky road up to get to new price levels, essentially.
And if you really look back, all of the massive gains in Bitcoin are in very short periods of time, right? The rest of the time, you're like, the bulk of the time you're in a sideways market or really depressed that it's kind of floating down.
It makes me feel uneasy when we see such sharp price rises as this.
Of course.
Because it's just purely speculative rather than, and it is, people are speculating on the ETF launch. But, I think next year is very interesting, and credit to Galaxy. I mean, they've done some interesting work on this, trying to figure out how much inflows might be. It's very simplistic work, but I think it's good. If there's $14 trillion worth of assets out there, you have the addressable market, and you say 10% of people buy Bitcoin at a 1% allocation, that's $14 billion of inflows next year, which would likely be, that would be the largest on record. The largest we've seen in a year was in 2021, when we saw about $9.8 billion of inflows. So I think it's quite a fair analysis.
Yeah, and BITO, when it launched, which was the Bitcoin Futures ETF, was the single most successful ETF launch in history. And that's because it got to $1 billion in 48 or 72 hours. People don't realize that the products we've had already that were launched in this space, not the Ethereum Futures ETF, obviously, but the Bitcoin Futures ETF, when it launched, was massively successful. Huge AUM, extremely fast, to the point where they couldn't even buy month dated contracts and had to start buying 2 and 3 and 4 month contracts.
We have to also, I think, apply sort of a slight dose of reality here, because Ethereum launched its futures-based ETFs, and on a net basis, we've seen outflows. So that's a bit disappointing. But as I said earlier, everyone's hating on Ethereum at the moment. I think,
I think it's just like, to be fair, BITO launched at the peak of a bull market, right? It was actually the top, just like CME and CBOE futures were in the previous top of the last bull market. So I think there are some people who are concerned that an ETF launch would just be another way for institutions to short, but I don't think it's the same product, to be quite honest.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think this is it's not futures based, it's spot based. It ticks many due diligence boxes and tracks the price better, as you said earlier. We could see real money. I've been asked many times, because I do the fund flows report, to try and quantify just how much. I'm trying to resist that, because I know whatever number I come up with, it will probably be wrong.
I mean, you have 1 in 100 chance probably of being even close, because nobody has any idea. But it is good to see people doing the work. Mark Yusko came on the show once, and he was like, in the first couple of years, 30 billion, but it was based on similar math, more on, I think, investment advisors and institutional total capital at X trillions, if they all allocated 1% or 0.5%, sort of the same thing. I guess yours was a little more retail focused, his a bit more institutional. I just fail to see BlackRock launching an unsuccessful product. It feels like they will have their ducks well in a row in advance of this to make sure that this at least does $1 billion or $2 billion just so people talk about it. BlackRock's not launching it and getting 500 grand in AUM.
The next step is figuring out what the seed is going to be. So whenever a fund is launched, there's a seed capital. No one quite knows what that will be, but the seed capital would be huge. And don't forget, someone like BlackRock is a machine, the largest asset manager in the world with a huge sales and distribution team that have probably got a lot of potential clients sitting on the sidelines. That's why it's so hard to quantify just, how big it could be. But then it comes at a time when there's a scarcity of Bitcoin production, or about to be, and the halving. It's quite a positive outlook, I think, for 2024 in particular.
Larry Fink could be the most powerful human being in the world, certainly top 5 or 10, and he's on TV calling crypto a flight to quality, right? I mean, if you don't know that's, first of all, I have no idea if he believes it or not. Frankly, I don't care at all. But you don't get much better marketing for an asset than Larry Fink talking his book and beating this drum repeatedly anywhere that someone will listen.
I would echo, that's what other clients have been saying prior to him. So during the banking crisis, we were speaking to clients and they were saying, I'm so worried about banking. I see Bitcoin as a flight to quality, as a hedge against this problem and government debt, etc. So actually, I don't think it's that far off the mark. I think whether it's marketing or not, who knows, but clients are expressing a very similar sentiment, using Bitcoin as a monetary policy hedge and a banking crisis government debt hedge. Now, there's this whole QE/QT experiment. A lot of people are trying to figure out how it's all going to end. I don't know. I think most people don't know, but they want some sort of insurance policy against it. And that will fall into the hands of something like Bitcoin.
I right before I let you go, I often co-host a Twitter Spaces in the morning, which is the traditional finance spaces, as opposed to obviously the crypto town hall, which we do at 10:15. It's at 8 a.m. And I bang my head against the wall. There are Bitcoiners there, but there's always the naysayers push back. It's almost impossible. And somehow, I think it was on Monday, I orange pilled almost all of them, including Donish, the host, who said, as of Monday morning, his favorite things were hating on Bitcoin and hating on Tesla. Those are his 2 favorite activities. And I simply made the point that the holy grail of any investment portfolio, especially when you see the 60-40 dying like this, is something with idiosyncratic risk that has a chance to act like an uncorrelated asset. So I went much deeper than that. I said you should at least have an allocation in something alternative, gold, Bitcoin, whatever that is, because 60-40 keeps getting crushed. But the final point I made was, even if you emotionally despise Bitcoin, if you hate it, if you think it's the dumbest thing in the world, if it's a Ponzi scheme, the very fact that we can show you the lack of correlation, that you can put 1% of it in your portfolio and improve your Sharpe ratio, should make you buy it. Even if you don't like it, it even helps your portfolio if it's going down, up, at least it's not going down and up with everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've just had a conference in Lugano. This is after Plan B. We didn't attend Plan B, but we had 30 clients in the room, and all expressing, which is unusual actually, all expressing really positive sentiment towards Bitcoin and really keen to understand how it works in portfolio, fundamentally what's the demand for Bitcoin, all those kind of things. And it's the most positive sentiment we've seen for quite some time.
Any final thoughts before I let you go?
Maybe a little bit of a retracement, and then I think there's real potential upsides next year. Like I've been saying, this is quite an exciting point for crypto assets.
I posted that weekly RSI chart on Twitter, and some guy, I get the classic, so no direction, thanks a lot, right? And I said, oh, okay, I don't know, down a bit, then up. There you go. Right? Cool. That's my best prediction that I got. James, thank you so much. I love that you always bring the data. We have the best guests here, guys. People who actually can speak intelligently on things and back it up with information. So thank you, guys. Follow James. His Twitter, is it J Butter? What is your Twitter?
J Butterfill, yes.
J Butterfill. That's what I thought. At J Butterfill. If they're on this show, you should be following them on Twitter. That's really what I got. And I guess it's not called Twitter anymore. Thanks, James. Hopefully we'll see you here and on Crypto Town Hall soon.
See you. Pleasure.
Yeah. Things are heating up. It's getting really exciting around here. And it's great because it was really hard for the last, year and a half to show up and try to convince you people that this was all going to happen with, a quarter of the numbers and everybody super depressed. But here we are. And now we can ignore everything we just talked about in the fundamentals and just open the really pretty pictures with the squiggly lines and figure out what the charts are telling us. And of course, since it's Wednesday, I have my very own mentor, Christopher Inks, TextWestCapital. Good morning, sir.
What's going on, man? How you doing this morning?
Good. How's it feel to be so right?
Man, people forget about it. Like it really hit me, man, what you just said there. It's been so difficult over the last, year or whatever, and trying to explain to people what's going to happen. And, and then it happens. And, all the people just coming out of the woodwork, for the last year, they just kind of disappear and they just leave it. And people forget that, you've been saying this is exactly what's going to happen. Right. So it is what it is. And people, you can't convince people. This is one thing in life, you can't convince anybody of anything. People have to be ready, willing, and able to open up to really listen. They have to convince themselves. And I think we kind of get caught up in that, especially if you really believe in Bitcoin and, this idea of what it allows you, as an individual, compared against the fiat, and the banks and whatnot. So, we just keep talking, right?
Yeah, we do. So let's take a look at some of the charts and see what they're telling us. We were just kind of kicking around the idea of some retracement maybe soon, but also obviously the idea that we could push to 40, and then we can start talking. So the thing is, now you get those, like we were talking about daily RSI being 88, pretty much almost as high as it gets. We can get into the low 90s, but then the idea that FOMO hasn't even kicked in. Nobody's even asking me about this thing yet.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is one of the charts. Anybody that follows me, or follows the show here, I posted this chart and a few others kind of like it, just showing different things. But, the last time that I posted this, I left this little note up here and I said, listen, the expectations that it goes up, we were hanging right around this low volume node here. And I said, nothing's changed. Looks like we're headed up. I said, if it happens to go down, we've always got a secondary plan and there's a target area, but I said it's likely to set the stage for for a price run impulsively into the 38,000 area at least. We're pretty close so far on this chart here. We've gotten up to oh gosh, let me move this thing out of the way here so I can see my numbers. We ran up about 35,100 almost. This is the BLX right here. So I mean we're almost there, and I think we've still got further to go. I'm looking at us next move up around 37,000 right now. So I really kind of think that thing I've been talking about, which is we broke out through that range, and I think we get that 38 to 40,000 area at least on a way higher. I think we just kind of leave the range behind. This pent up demand or, just pent up accumulation there for 6-7 months. Things got to run a bit,
Yeah, we kind of had that area between 25 and 28.5, and then the area 28.5 to 31. My expectations, we would chill out in the, we would make the level up in ranges and then kind of chill under 31. And as has happened many times in the past, I'll never forget that after Bitcoin lost 6,000 years ago, remember it went down to like 4 or something.
Yep.
And everyone said it could never get back above 6. Right? You remember it was like, it'll get to 6, but it's going to get absolutely rejected. And you kept saying it is just going to absolutely blast through. And it went like straight to 14 or something.
Yeah. Up there at 13,000. Yeah.
Right. But the fact that we're all asking for the retracement, if there's one thing Bitcoin does, it does not give you the dip you want to buy. Maybe a little bit, but never kind of comes back. This is the asset that doesn't do the classic perfect retest.
Well, you've been in here, for quite a while, like I have been, and the one thing I've noticed is when everybody wants the dip, it usually doesn't happen. That's usually the point at which they were so convinced it was going to keep going down lower that they didn't get in. They were so scared. And then it finally does take off. And now they want it back. But, what are you going to do? The thing it's been, like I said, ranging for 6-7 months here. It's going to have some power on that move and some continuation, I think. So, yeah. Everything working out all right so far.
Yeah, I was pointing out before, I mean, that daily RSI is high, but the weekly RSI is just hitting overbought. And that when that happened over here, that was at 12,000 on the way to 65. Yeah. So, we might get consolidation though, right? I mean, you do eventually need to see these daily and all these RSIs come down. but that can happen with just a couple days of sideways action.
Yeah, exactly. And we've had that right now since, let me see here. What was it? Since Monday, we've just kind of gone sideways between that 35.2 and
33-ish.
35 area. Yeah. So, it's a $3,000 range there. We've been consolidating in that. I mean, to me, it looks like a pennant. It looks like we pop out higher. Like I said, my next target up is around 37,000. But I don't think that's, I think we do that. We pull back to right about where we are, and then we go up higher once more to keep on pushing there. And, again, I think one thing we got to make clear real quick here is, a lot of traders, when they come in, when they're starting out, they hear all about you need to sell when it's overbought, RSI, or, buy when it's oversold.
That's just when it's getting
good. The reality of it is that when it's overbought, what it's telling you is that the market is extremely bullish. And so that's why, that whole idea of the market can stay,
irrational longer than you can stay solvent.
Exactly. Or when it's oversold, it's just really bearish. So, it can continue to remain oversold for a while, especially on these larger time frames. So yeah, the weekly, like you showed there, man, it just got overbought and then it just kept on running, right? We could see something similar.
Yeah, I drew the pennant this morning and I just revisited it when you said it, and it's breaking out already, actually. This candle hadn't wicked above when I drew it, and this one here, right? So, I mean, we're already sort of breaking out. Volume seems to be increasing slightly from this downtrend. So, I mean, maybe we're already getting that breakout. My only concern, which is what we're going to see here on the 4-hour and on the daily, just because RSI got so high, is that we probably will start to see some bearish divergence here. I mean, the daily, look at that thing. 88
crazy,
RSI, right? You just got to imagine if you get another major push up after a few days, that it'll have a lower RSI, and maybe that gives us a bit of that, retracement. But you can get these bear divs and then go up another $5,000 and get another bear div and go up. They're great signals, but they're not the best when you're in a raging bull market.
Exactly. So, but and so that's the main one. That's what we're all watching, right? I've got some few other charts here.
Yeah, go. Let's cut through them.
Let me kind of find where I'm at here. Okay. Everybody's all crazy about Link. Link is another one of those ones I've been talking about for a very long time. It dipped down below the range to around $5. Before it happened, I said, listen, it's accumulation. I said, we'll probably get it dipped down below. That's going to be what we call a spring. That's where you want to buy. Of course, I got ridiculed because everybody said, oh, no, it's going to zero now. And here we are up. This is the wrong one. This is Link Bitcoin. We'll look at that one.
I was going to say that looks even better. It's just nothing but higher highs and higher lows.
Yeah. We'll look at that one in just a minute here real quick. But this is the one here. And so, again, we had that dip down below, and it just kept on going up. And, we've hit, what is that? $11.64 so far. I think we've got to rally a little bit higher up here toward this $12.15 to $12.32 area, I think. But as you say, that would just be my 3, and we pull back here. So I'm going to see if we can get a pop out higher here. That's what I'm going to be looking for. But yeah, I mean, Links broke out of the range, clear breakout. It's going up higher now.
This gave the entry yesterday. So in my opinion, so on Monday, here was the range. I actually, for the first time in years, I'm just like aggressively posting altcoin charts in my newsletter and stuff. I just didn't do it for a long time because I didn't want to even try because the odds were so bad. But, it was up here. It had just broken out. And I said, listen, you're going to want a retest of the top of the range if you get it. You don't usually get it on Bitcoin, but on Link, I mean, yesterday, I drew it like this, not time-based. But, I mean, you got it a day later. Literally like a perfect retest of the top. And now if you bought at, that was 960, you had an opportunity straight up to 1160, right? To your point, there's no bearish divergence here. This is just pushing into overbought. I mean, a lot of these look exceptionally good. There's a few I had injective, right? I mean, this thing, and this is even more bullish because this wasn't at a bottom. This is continuation, right? I mean, injective is at half the all-time high. Most things are still like, even Link's probably down 90% or something, even with this move. This is down 50%. And this was a kind of a reaccumulation range as opposed to being a bottom and just absolutely blast off. I mean, there's a lot of charts for the first time I'm seeing that are really breaking out. Matic. I mean, look at that. And look at the retest. You got a retest of the descending line and the horizontal in exactly the same spot. Another thing you showed me to look for back in the day, right? I mean, absolutely incredible. These are just looking great to me.
There's a lot of great charts. Yeah. So, we've got this one here. I'm going to pull up Matic here real quick. I think I've got it here because you just mentioned that. Nope. Yeah, I do right here.
Yeah.
Again, bigger picture here. It looks like we've got some reaccumulation here. It doesn't look like it's got enough to go down really below kind of like this, the range EQ here. Here we are breaking out of that descending channel. So if we can clear this, what is this here? This weekly pivot here right around 67, 68 cents. I think we probably rally at least to the top of the range. It gets us up there around $1.05. And if we're doing that, ultimately, I believe we just kind of rally up and continue up higher, up to new all-time highs on it as well. So, bigger picture on that, still looking good as well. A lot of room on RSI here to go still. But I love the volume drop off in the range here. It's absolutely fantastic. And just kind of, then you get your local range here and taking off. That link Bitcoin chart, I think I'm going to start looking at more of these Bitcoin charts now.
Because now you need to outperform Bitcoin, or what are you even doing, right? Yeah, you could just we all think you can sit in Bitcoin and make money right now, so don't buy something that you think is going to underperform.
Yeah. And so, we've got this great move right here, and we've got this pullback. So I'm looking for, a breakout through, what is this high here? This is 0.003402. If we can get a breakout through that, I think we're getting up here to that 41.18 to 44.70 area. And as you see, to me, that's just wave 3 of this larger wave 3. So we get
and if that happens while Bitcoin is rising against the dollar, you got a much bigger move on that dollar pair. So this is just showing you the potential. If you think that you can outperform Bitcoin while Bitcoin is rising, you have officially found the Holy Grail.
Yeah, exactly. Real quick here, I've got some other charts. I've got Ethereum, Bitcoin here. This is one we were looking at for a potential reversal off this area right here, this EQ of this demand structure and this S1 pivot on the weekly. You can see that weekly's oversold. RSI bottomed out and oversold on Stoch RSI. Looking to see if we can get a reversal up out of here to kind of complete this, wave 4 and then wave 1 and 2 heading up next. So that's what I'm looking for on that right now. We did get a bit of a pop there earlier. But, Ethereum's still kind of struggling a bit comparatively to Bitcoin. But, again, it did rally up first. It rallied up from the June 2022 low, whereas, Bitcoin had that extra drop down to November, in November. So, I mean, it is what it is. James, I think it was up there.
Yeah. And James just came on and said, and listen, CoinShares, like these guys are the researchers, right? He has a better gauge of what sentiment is and what people are viewing. And he was saying this is as bearish as he's seen sentiment on Ethereum in a very long time. And he was taking, as we are, like the counter side to that, right? That's irrational and whatever. And when you look at this chart, everyone says it's over. Look how poorly Ethereum will never outperform Bitcoin again. It's done. Ooh, kind of gets you interested.
Well, that's about the time that you really should start paying attention. So, let's see here. Pepe, man, everybody's favorite meme coin, right? That thing finally found a low down there, popped up, had a great candle right here on Monday. Today it's popping up again. I've got this initial target right there around 1232.88. But, again, if we're breaking out above this 1894.11 area here, that should indicate we're rallying up to new all-time highs on that. So, which I'm sure there are a lot of people that have held from here all the way down here, they might be able to start breathing a bit easier as this thing potentially continues to rally here. But it's looking good right now off this. I mean, if I'm looking here, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4. That gets us that 5. So, we'll get a 3, we'll get a 4 on the pullback. We'll get a 5 at least, probably around 15, 30, 50. And then, so you get you a 1 and get you a 2 on the pullback, and then 3 will break out above that wave B there. And we'd just be looking for that day at higher as well.
Since we're doing memes, and I hate to, but I have to, because I actually posted one. Can you take a quick look at SHIB? Because this to me, like not in the same way as that, but on my SHIB chart, I mean, if you pull this range, this recapture right here after these sort of deviations below, I mean, it did it right here. It looks like a quick move to over 1,000. I mean, I'm not going to mention all the zeros, but like if you even just look at this, when it recaptures these range lows, to me, it should be heading right back up to the CQ at minimum.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming off that. Let me. What does that SHIB you said? Is that
SHIB?
USD?
Now I'm gonna make you look at the dog. SHIB USDT on Binance. I mean, the
All right,
idea,
let's see
obviously, if you look at the whole thing, is that we're way down. These are lines I have no idea. I drew them years ago. But like this whole area here, you're accumulating in that same massive sort of zone that we had, back here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, right at the middle kind of that idea. And I don't know, man. But as I pull into it, it started to look really good. I'll let you pull one up if you can find it.
Yeah, I haven't looked at SHIB in a while.
Well, good. We can get fresh eyes on it.
Well, we've rallied up into the pivot here, trying to consolidate right there at it, same place where the local resistance here. So popping outside of that would be good. What do we have on the weekly here? Weekly Stoke RSI crossing bullishly and oversold. And that thing just really retraced, didn't it? That looks like ape.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
But yeah, so that thing retraced all the way to the real kind of support down here. I mean, for me, just big picture here off this, I'd probably want to see a breakout of this particular diagonal right here.
I'm going fishing for catfish here. I'm right at the bottom trying to catch it.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. This looks like just 3
You don't have to like it. You don't have to like it. I won't be offended.
Yeah, I'm just right here. It looks like 3. Let me see. Well, I guess it could be. Shoot, let me make sure here. I don't like these where they're just kind of just kind of sitting over themselves there. Let me see. Okay, maybe a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then maybe a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How far is that pull back there? Quick here. 70.5. Oh yeah, look at that. That's 70.5. Institutional level pullback. Yeah, I mean, I like that we're here. I want to see it clear this local area. I'd probably then look for it to run up here around 834. If we can clear that, odds are we'll probably break out above this swing high, which then kind of gets us this target up here at around 1490. And that's the way I would approach it. I think there's some possibility here, but we're definitely going to want to see a good breakout here from where we're at. Right now, we're just consolidating where we were previously, consolidating before we broke down. We did get support at the S1 pivot on the daily, and now we're trying to break out through that daily pivot. So there's a good chance there, I think, but I definitely want to see those, those kind of stepping the way I was talking about there to really kind of start seeing maybe.
Okay, then we'll look at stuff you actually like and not stuff that.
No, it'll probably be one of those things where I'm like, yeah, and then it like takes off, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you got it.
Let me see real quick here. What I got? Everybody talking about Sol. That was another one.
Man, somebody was in the comments yesterday saying Chris told me to buy it at $9, so I did. That's what somebody said. Yeah.
Somebody said that?
Yeah.
I'm glad somebody listens every once in a while.
Yeah.
I don't normally give a whole lot of, you should really be looking at buying right here. But this was one of them, and we've continued to break out higher here. Man, and I continue to update this chart and post it, on my Twitter there or X or whatever it's called. And I think the last time I was posted was I was talking about attempting to break through this right here. And then, the time before last, I think, and then we broke through, right? And just kind of continued up through the range. So this, like Link, longer term accumulation here or reaccumulation. So from February through, October, so nearly a year. So again, like Link, we should be expecting some good movement up. I've got my wave 3 target up here around 78.25 on that one right there. So
obviously we're interested in altcoins here, but this is a select few. If you actually look, dominance has still raged and a lot of them are still getting sort of slaughtered. So how do you sort of parse that? Does it feel like you find these select few, but maybe, I just feel like if Bitcoin pushes to 40 right now, it's going to be altcoin palooza when it consolidates afterwards.
That's exactly what I've been talking about. What I think's happening. It was going to happen. We'll get this final big leg up into like 40 or something like that, and then we'll start getting some kind of consolidation, a little bit of time, right? And that's I think when alts will finally go, because we are starting to see some of these really start. INJ, like you said there, Sol, Link. We're seeing these kind of really making moves. And a lot of them that haven't maybe necessarily made those moves right there are kind of looking bottomish, like they're ready to, So or potentially ready to. And so,
Yeah,
I
it's just a
think
preview.
that's a good possibility what's coming up with that.
I'm gonna be
for
looking
sure.
forward to that. Anything else, or we're
I'll
coming
throw
up
a few
to the end.
stocks
Go
on here
ahead.
real quick.
Let's cook through them quick so I can get ready for town hall. We got 5 minutes.
For sure. I've got MicroStrategy here. This is one I was talking about when we were back down here. I think on the show here, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
That thing just kind of taken off like a scalded cat here. That one's up from 330 or so up to about 430, so $100 run.
Only in Texas do things take off like a scalded cat. There, go ahead.
Based on the height of wave 4 here, wave 5 potentially has a 621 target or so. I've got Coin. Coin's been following my chart here. We did get the rally off the demand structure EQ here. It looks like we've got maybe a leading diagonal done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So might pull back a little bit and fill in this gap and then head up. But I've got a wave circle 3 target up here at around 297.25. Tesla, I think there's a good chance this may be bottomed here. Looking for a breakout above wave X at 278.98.
So much FUD. FUD. And there's so much FUD.
Oh, yeah, exactly. 632 target up there. If we can break out above that, I think that sets us up pretty good for that. But that would be 3 of 3 here. So, that's just that target and continue up higher. Microsoft, I had a watch list of earnings this week, man. Everybody killing earnings yesterday. Snap, Microsoft, Visa. I mean, just everybody. But Microsoft was one of the ones that's really watching along with Amazon tomorrow. But it looks like we're good to go. We broke above the second wave here. So I've got a target up there, $404.50 on this rally heading up there with Microsoft. So, just everything looking like a lot of fun to be a trader right now. It's always more fun when everything's going up.
Yeah, of course. Even if the volatility is down, nobody's shorting. So, whatever. So
That's right.
More fun to catch the volatility on the way up. All right, man. Awesome. Thank you. And it's been great having you on Crypto Town Hall so often, by the way. You become like that was
something, huh? Kind of a few times there.
Good time, huh? It's fun. It's like there's too many people talking, to be quite honest. So it's like sometimes my ADD kicks in, and then I hear my name, and I'm like, oh shit, what are we talking about? But otherwise, it's good to have interesting guests that at least keep my attention. And everyone, that is in 20 minutes. Everybody follow TextWestCapital on X. I did call it X that time, finally, for maybe the first time ever. And we'll see you on Crypto Town Hall. Chris, thank you very much, man. See you here next week.
Yes, sir. We'll see you then.
I'm going to take them off. I saw somebody had where was that comment? I don't know if it's still here. Somebody asked me to play. Scott C said, play the Pump It Up song. These are from the old, a lot of you probably are not the same people here, but we used to do this a lot. I literally forgot I have these sounds. Did you hear that? Did you guys hear that? I don't even have headphones. I think so. Now I won't even know because I can't hear it. Is this the Pump It Up song? You guys are literally have to tell me because I don't have a speaker plugged into this. Is it going on Pump It Up? Or is it Benny Hill? It's got to be one of the two. Is that it? I need to literally plug headphones into the thing. You got to pump it up, don't you know? I'm gonna find it. It's gonna work. I'm missing all. I can hear it now. I'm gonna get a strike, by the way, from YouTube. This is the other one we used to do. Whenever I would play like Gary Gensler or Jerome Powell, we would do this. Guess the bull market is back, guys. Oh, yeah. Feels good. Feels good that we can do stupid things on YouTube, and it only makes like 80 of you leave. Guys, that is all I've got for you today. I really do have to go. Thank you. Goodbye.